Продовжуємо роботу в українському
We continue our work in Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and now we will be talking about the results of content analysis of local council member reports and national survey on political activity of citizens. Our guests are Oleksander Skyba, Deputy Chairman of the Institute Respublika, Vitaliy Hlyzhinskyi, Network Coordinator of the projects of the Institute Respublika, Yurii Sereda, lawyer of the Institute Respublika. Good afternoon to our audience and internet audience. My name is Alexandra. I represent Institute Respublika NGO, and today we will be talking about the deputies' reports and content analysis performed by the Institute Respublika and the national survey of the level of political activity of citizens and their engagement in political processes on site. In May this year, we already held the news conference and presented the numbers on reports of local deputies reports, 11 towns and 2 villages and some regional cities provided us responses to our requests. Only 43% of deputies reported by the time. We wanted to move forward and to get to know the content and analyze it. Institute Respublika decided to analyze the reports of local council deputies if there should have been 880 reports. However, we analyzed just a little more than 300 reports available, because not all deputies file their reports. Deputies are very creative in implementing the laws of Ukraine. To our regret, we saw different types of information presentation as concerns main shortcomings of content. The reports were in different formats, either just infographics, number of attended members of sessions, the number of public requests, the number of draft decisions submitted by deputies, but no analytical data were available, as well as no decisions of the same session meetings were provided, and deputies thought that they provided indicators of their performance for the year, but we do not think so. Some deputies just delivered interviews. They were interviewed by journalists, and after that they presented such interviews as if they are reports, or some videos where deputies were talking about their activities. The other shortcoming is that they speak only about their activities in response to public requests, such as number of repaired roadways or number of external lighting systems installed, or other issues addressed in their circuits. The other deputies provided information on what they did in their at the meetings of councils and as members of commissions. So this data do not provide full pictures of deputies' performance. The other bottleneck was either too brief information. For example, one deputy's annual report consisted of 5 sentences. On the other hand, some deputies delivered daily results of their activities. For example, on the 1st of January, I visited the maternity house. On the 2nd of January, I repaired some roadways or fences. Is it enough for general public to make some conclusions? I think no. So when we published this information, the deputies started to appeal against them. They said that they reported at some website, but we did not include their reports, did not consider them, and we asked them where general public members should look for your reports. There are legislative norms. Deputies should publish their reports on local council websites. If they are not posted there, this means that the reports are not available. But deputies did not agree with us and felt insulted. We are on the side of voters, of our grassroots public. Our citizens can see in deputies' reports what such deputy did during the year. This is a very good norm, and if all positions are articulated, the report would be a good document to assess performance of the deputy when the voters' interests were presented in a local council.
Whether I will vote for this deputy during next election or I will give my vote to another person. So the report is useful for deputies, for PR, and this is a report on an annual basis, and also people may go to Verkhovna Rada's site and see whether they can really trust this deputy. Also, they should put information about addresses of their voters and whether these deputies implemented their obligations. Also, one more positive thing we saw, some deputies also published what they implemented according to their agenda. For example, 2016, 5 main points they went to elections with, and then 7 and 8 that were not implemented. And he said that I will work on 7 or 8 issues, and this is a positive thing in the report, and we want to spread this practice. And in order to make these reports useful for people and deputies, Respublika Institute developed a draft decision about reporting that we proposed to the deputies of local council. and they can introduce their proposals, but we developed a plan, the date, the deadline for the report, what information should be present on the site of local councils, and also we submitted a form that can be completed by a deputy, and his report will correspond to the legislation about deputies' activity, and also it will be clear and can be analyzed by citizens. Also about activity of deputies. I would like to give the floor to Sereda, who is going to tell us about the main points. What were the activities of the deputies? Thank you. So we analyzed the reports of the deputies local level. So out of 307, we analyzed 371 reports, and in other reports it was difficult to understand what the deputies did. So the conclusions about the issues that were resolved by the deputies, we provided some categories of the activities and what was done in different settlements, and also the number of these activities in the east, in the west, in the south and the north of the country. And we analyzed more in the western and the central Ukraine, so the results differ from the results of others, and we should state that the position, the item that was of interest of this is the traffic way and footway repair, asphalt cover for the road. So this was 209 in the mentions in the report. So these are unique mentions. So if 4 streets were repaired, this was in one category because this concerns road repairs, and a little bit less we have mentions about material support provision. Compared with the types of works that were provided, material support was in some places, I will mention them later, and the deputies focused the attention that the money was spent to the money from deputies fund were provided to sponsor help, material support, and from one side it is good, but from the other it is not so good, because the deputy is not in equal conditions with the deputies who will take part in next elections, because deputies have access to financial resources, and this increases their chance to be re-elected. So about material and sponsor help, we found 136 mentions in the report. This is the third place. So the public events, when people's deputies took part in celebrations in the city or took part in some commemorative events, when they attended, took part in fairs and public events. This is good, but this allows the deputy to PR himself and to show that he cares, but he didn't do anything physically and do not meet these obligations. He So also in top 5 is the repair of lighting in the streets, and 5th place is setting and repairing playgrounds, 112 mentions. So the deputies actively took part in repair and setting playgrounds and sports grounds, and it shows that the deputies direct the activity not only at adult population to improve infrastructure, but also they care about children. So in regions, the repair of roads was in the west, 87 mentions, 29 in the north, and 15 in the east. So this shows that the deputies really interested in repairing of roads, because the condition of roads is not satisfactory, and the deputies used the funds in order to repair roads and streets in the settlements. Moreover, we should state that often deputies raised the questions about repair of infrastructure, buildings, non-residential buildings, and these types of work were not in top 5, but the deputies also improved the sector. So if we speak about repairs of residential housing in west and central Ukraine, to these regions, there were 83 mentions, and in the east of Ukraine and in the north, these figures were less. And also we should say that the deputies also were involved in development of the territories, and after we held forums regionally, the deputies said that it is important that citizens should control what was done by the deputies, not just deputies should report. And we believe that citizens should control the deputies more, and this will improve the activity of the deputies, and the deputies will provide in such a case more quality reports. Thank you, Yurii. As Yurii mentioned, the deputies will provide more quality work if we control them. So whether our citizens are ready to participate in decision-making, whether they are ready to cooperate with power, and Vitaliy will tell us about it. Good afternoon, dear colleagues.
I will tell you today about this survey by Institute Respublika this March, April. 11,400 respondents were covered, including youth and elderly people. We conducted this survey in the streets, and we asked about active participation in political processes. We were interested how the consciousness of citizens about active participation in the state life has changed for 3 years. There were very many questions. The first is whether you believe you are a politically active citizen. about 40% of respondents answered in affirmative. This was a high indicator because 3 years ago the figure was far lower. This figure demonstrates not the political activity per se, but just perception of an individual as being active. How often you enter the website of the Verkhovna Rada and local councils and district and regional councils, respondents visit such sites. At least 50%, almost 50% visit the websites, enter the websites of those state authorities. So it would be good to have a unified website like in other countries. This would improve understanding by people of the contact of such websites of local and national authorities. The next question is whether you believe it necessary for citizens to attend sessions of local councils. More than 40%, 45.8% believe that someone should visit the sessions, but they think it should be some other persons, some their representatives, but not them themselves who would attend the meetings. So we should conduct public awareness campaigns, because if we want to combat corruption, that we need to visit the meetings of local radas. When we asked what interferes with your attending the meetings of local authorities, some people say that 6% are not allowed to enter the meetings, 14% saying that they do not understand what for they should go there. 21% said they do not know. So next question was how often you address your local council members, district council members, regional council members. So the leaders are deputies of their own settlements. Very often people use only the first stage to address their issues, such as deputies of settlement councils, but they do not go to district and regional councils. So we call on our citizens not to stop at the first stage and go to district and regional level councils. The next question is, if you see some problem next to your house, for example, lack of pedestrian way or lack of kindergarten, what do you do usually? The leader is talking with neighbors that everything is bad, that there is no order in the community. 19.6% say that I talk to single-minded persons and we use different methods to improve the situation. Very many people just say they do not think about this. But we call on our citizens to think and to act. The next question is whether you were engaged voluntarily on addressing some issues in your villages or towns. 28% said that they took part in some land improvement measures, such as planting of greenery, installation of waste bins, and so on. High percentage of almost 40% they didn't engage. So we should engage more citizens. We should work further. What are the tools for public participation in decision making at local level, which you know? We offered alternatives, and people choose from these alternatives. Main tool is elections. 33% said so. On the second place go submissions and requests. Very small amount of citizens understands how to use electronic petitions, referendums, public hearings. Requests is a very user-friendly form of contacts. Just you write an application and file it. What instruments you used for resolving your problems? 29.5% used general meetings of citizens, 25.9% used requests, 13.5% used electronic petitions. These percentages 29.5% and 25.9% do not mean that the person really used this tool, but he or she thinks that she did that when just visiting such a meeting. But it is a positive sign that people know something about these tools. And after this survey, they will might find some other information about these tools. The next question is, to your opinion, how you can influence decision making in your town, your village. 36.3% of citizens think that they should stir up activities in their communities. 35.8% think that we should fulfill the laws. When the process started, people just blamed the president and the Verkhovna Rada, and now people think that they should actively engage the communities.
And people responded that local city head is responsible for the development of community, and citizens that are responsible 40%, local council 32%, and then others. What I want to say is, first place, 16.3%, they said that they personally responsible for the development of community, and we believe that this should be at the top. First place, because we are those people who can influence our own future. No one will do anything for us. So this is what we wanted to present in this research. So we should change ourselves in order to change the country. Thank you. This is a really detailed report. You said that there are reports of the deputies, that some deputies just didn't provide enough information in order to be analyzed. So if we are speaking about the geographical division, what cities and towns are the leaders concerning the quality, and what are of poor quality? So the leaders are both central and western regions. There, the deputies were more active and they provided the majority of quality reports. And outsiders were the representatives of the East and South. About reports in which there is lack of information, only several sentences. In all the regions we had such reports, but in the East and in the South there were more such reports. Also, I would like to ask, you presented your report in May, and you said that 43% submitted the reports. Did activists address you then? And were they provided with consultations? Because I know that there was a feedback from the deputies, but what people said, some processes of the pressure on deputies who didn't report. When you asked this question, I smiled, because when we published this data, everyone started to phone us. What was pleasant is that common citizens, those people who are not systematically active, there were some letters to the Respublika Institute. People asked where they can find a report of their deputy, or how can I find information about my deputy because I do not know who he is. And when we saw such a feedback over several days, when the results were announced, we decided to hold forums about the synergy between people and power, and to put a question or exclamation mark, so in order that people choose this mark. And we had the representatives of citizens and the deputies, and part of citizens in the course of the forums, they started to ask questions to their deputies, and they tried to find common solutions. And in the majority of cases, these forums were attended by deputies who provided the reports. And we also provided to draft decisions, and we tried to find common grounds about the introduction of these decisions. And in the majority of towns, sometimes these were not deputies, but secretaries and city heads. They provided public announcements that they will bring these decisions during the meeting of city councils. And also recently we got information from Skadovsk that they created a group of citizens who decided to analyze our draft decision and to think whether they would like to add something to it and to deliver a campaign in order that the deputies implemented what they promised during the forum. And also about Skadovsk, there was an interesting fact. When we hold the forum, there was a report of the mayor. The mayor decided to show an example that one should report and be open. And about results as they were. So after the published quantity data, we started to say that we will hold forums, and deputies started to submit more reports. I would like to say about Dragobych in Lviv Oblast. When we started to analyze, we sent a request to local councils, and there was zero report on the site of the council. And then they said that they have sent the reports, and then there was an information about the number of requests to the deputies, and they put a report for 2016, and we saw 7 downloaded reports. And between the period between preparation and announcement, part of the deputies phoned to our coordinator and asked questions. Maria, and what is the deadline for the report? Because I want to show myself from the good side. And there were 23 out of 36 that were necessary. So we want that the deputies implemented the norms of legislation and report for their voters, not for our institute. So you should knock and then they will open. So we see positive trend. The deputies start to report, they come to public events, and they do not afraid to speak to voters. Also, here it is important that the deputies show their openness, and activity of people is important. Some deputies said that when they invite people for a meeting, only 2-3 people come to this meeting. So maybe deputies address people not really often. Sometimes people are not ready to come to these meetings and have a communication with the deputy. And we address the deputies and the citizens. Please attend the meetings and take part in this positive experience that will be created during this event. This will establish a dialogue that should be between the power and people in order to develop our towns and cities in a good way. So these are the results that we had. And one more thing, in Dragovic, the activists were so involved in analyzing the reports of the deputies that they decided to analyze the settlements that are around Dragovic. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, our coordinator said that there are zeros. So the situation may be as it was in Dragovic. First, the deputies just forget about their responsibilities, and our task is to remind to them about their responsibilities and that the law should be implemented. And about the results you have, what are your plans for the next several months? So you analyzed this information, and what are your plans? The matter is, first, we wrote a request to local heads and to deputies in order that they adopted this draft decision, and also we systemically work with the people. We hold different actions. We hold several events per week. In the streets, info hours, our coordinators inform about instruments of participation, how they can be used, what reforms are ongoing in the country, and so on. So we believe that this work should be done continuously, because changes in the consciousness of people, they cannot be done in a short period of time. And we want that those figures that were voiced by Vitaliy, that they were not what citizens want, but that they were in real results in implementation, that people address the deputies, visit the sites, attend the meetings of the local councils, and that they control the power. And in this way, we believe the power will change. And we bring such example. We may take any structure, business structure or administration structure. If we forget about people, what will happen in the firm? Nothing good will happen. And the same happens with the councils. If we do not communicate, if we do not control, nothing happens. Yes, this is true indeed. Thank you. And we are waiting for the new information. Thank you. Till the next time. Goodbye.